You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a ruling comes down in the Thompson murder trial.
Not only a Georgia start over the 4 states, but also too, this little change in pace. Temperatures aren't sitting in a whole bunch of 40s. Heat wave on the way. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, firefighter training in the age of COVID. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A jury finds a Joplin murder suspect guilty. Stephen Thompson left the courtroom yesterday afternoon after hearing the jury's verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and first-degree domestic assault. The verdict means Thompson is convicted of killing Carissa Gerard and critically injuring his estranged wife, Christina Thompson, in 2015.
We are very pleased with the verdict that the jury has given us. It is the evidence that we believed from the point where we filed this case that Stephen Thompson had committed first-degree murder and first-degree domestic assault. So we're very pleased that they were able to see and consider all that evidence and find him guilty.
Thompson is set to be sentenced late next month. One man is dead and another is in jail following a shooting in a parking lot. Authorities have charged 62-year-old Stephen Vignola with first-degree murder for the death of 32-year-old Justin Goolsby. Police and sheriff's officers responded Wednesday night to a report of shots fired in the parking lot of the Pilot truck stop in Nevada, Missouri. That's where they found Goolsby with gunshot wounds inside a vehicle. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Officers arrested Vignola near the scene. They have not released other details. Kansas Highway Patrol is asking the public for help finding a vehicle allegedly involved in a hit-and-run in Crawford County. Authorities say the crash happened around 10 p.m. September 9th on South 220th Street and East 510th Avenue. Suspect vehicle is a 2016 to 2018 white Chevy pickup, possibly a 4-door with damage to the passenger side rear quarter panel and a missing taillight. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Kansas Highway Patrol. COVID-19 has complicated the way 4 state fire departments train their firefighters. KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to fire chiefs in Carl Junction and in Diamond, Missouri, to learn how their departments have adjusted.
COVID-19 hasn't made life easy for the men and women of the Diamond Area Fire Protection District. It forced them to temporarily close their doors to the public in 2020. And in 2021, it's canceled in-person training courses run by the state.
They're looking at more doing the internet classes online instead of very many personal ones, except for the departments that request training. Then they will do in-person training at those departments.
The Diamond Fire Chief says the online fire training courses are helpful, but just can't replace the learning experience that comes with an in-person instructor. Carl Junction's Fire Chief agrees with that assessment.
The best training that we can get is hands-on, and so when you're not able to do that, it's not so much that you necessarily lose your focus, but you definitely lose the edge that you're trying to gain by always sharpening your skills.
But neither of these departments is taking their training situations sitting down. The Carl Junction Fire Protection District has the resources to do more in-house training and is taking advantage of that.
We have a lot more instructors than probably most fire departments around here do, and especially most fire departments that are our size. So we're able to kind of deliver a wealth of training and a diversity of training that maybe some places can't.
And the Diamond Area Fire Protection District is opening their own training facility in Diamond later this year. In Diamond and Carl Junction, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
The Diamond Fire Chief says that while the virus forced them to close their doors to the public last year, he does not see that happening again this year. Mcdonald County School District says it is dealing with a substitute teacher shortage. The district says it normally has about 60 subs, but this year they're down to 40. The shortage means it's harder for classrooms when a teacher needs to take a sick day, and it prevents many of them from attending professional development seminars.
Administrators that are leaving their usual jobs and going and covering classrooms because we do have this substitute teacher shortage. We have principals who have filled in the classrooms. We have other teachers that have been moved to different places.
The problem isn't just in Mcdonald County schools. It's a statewide problem. In response, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is launching a new online 20-hour training course that, when completed, will qualify applicants to get their substitute teacher certification regardless of college credits. The district is also trying to prepare children for school before they step foot in the classroom. The Mcdonald County Parents as Teachers program aims to identify any learning needs children may have due to the pandemic and virtual learning. They do this through speech training, early childhood education, as well as physical therapy.
Come to school, they're not necessarily always ready for school. It's our job as teachers in McDonald County Schools in the early childhood program to really meet that need and make sure that we're trying to get the children as ready as they can be for kindergarten.
McDonald County educators say these programs are available now. We'll have more information on this program and what local teachers have seen in their students coming up in our next half hour. It's 5:07.
Up and at 'em, kiddos. Time to get on the bus and head out to school, and it's going to be delightful. You can probably pull off t-shirts and shorts once again, because we're going to be raising up into the 80s and 90s over the weekend. Here we sit with a live look over 7th and Range Line. Joplin's been a very constant 58 degrees. Two things I want to point out. Number one, that barometer is eventually going to fall because the high pressure that we've had for the past couple of days is going to be replaced by a low pressure system. And that right there, that column is greatly going to increase as we work through mid-morning hours. Still waiting on somebody. Nope, I take that back. Neosho just hit it. Neosho is our winner this morning. First one to make it to 60 degrees. Only 60 that we have on the board right now. Chanute's at 58. Anderson's bumped up 5 degrees here in the past half hour, all the way to 54. And Miami barely clinging to the 50s, sitting at an even 5-0. This wind so far hasn't been too bad. It's just been about 5 to 10 miles per hour. But tell you what, about 10 a.m. is when that's really going to kick in. And when it does, we'll be talking about 15 to 20 miles per hour and gusting up to 25 miles per hour. We're also going to have increased cloud cover. This has moved in quick. Haven't seen any precipitation with it. But we were talking about that high pressure system that we still have the barometer on the rise. Well, for the most part, it's going to kick off toward the Mississippi and be replaced by a low pressure system that just about rides that same line as the high pressure did, as in kind of the Great Lakes down to Texas right there. And so that's what's moving our way. Now, a lot of times we think about low pressure systems and we think about perhaps organized thunderstorm activity. That will not be the case, as everything that even we see in the upper plains right now is really just going to head toward the Great Lakes. And so with our cloud cover, probably a good thing we have it, because if we were to have straight sunshine and wind, we'd be rolling in the mid to high 80s today. We'll go low to mid 80s today, and then we'll prepare for what's going to be a very, very warm and dry weekend, as Future Track really does not want to feed us any precipitation whatsoever. But what it will feed us, how about a good dose of summer-like heat? Get up to 86 on Saturday, and then we're going to roll 90s on Sunday and Monday. Really don't see a really good chance for any rain kicking in until we get to the middle of next week on Wednesday.
All right, there you have it. Well, up next, the World Health Organization updates its air quality guidelines, and later you'll meet a 100-year-old park ranger. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Well, we all know air pollution is bad, but a new study shows it's worse than scientists thought. So the World Health Organization has updated its air quality guidance for the first time in 15 years. Ian Lee reports from London.
The World Health Organization is slashing the recommended levels for air pollution, saying the harmful effects of dirty air kick in at lower levels than first thought.
Because of air pollution, the simple act of breathing contributes to 7 million deaths a year.
Health officials say polluted air increases the risk of conditions like pneumonia, asthma, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. The WHO is urging nations to cut levels of several pollutants, including nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and fine particulate matter, which can travel through the lungs and directly into the bloodstream.
Clean air is a political choice and a societal responsibility.
Scientists say some of the most dangerous pollutants are fossil fuels, burning from cars and power plants. Last week, a court in Indonesia found government officials guilty of environmental negligence for failing to tackle air pollution in the capital and ordered them to clean up the smog. Health experts say drastic cuts to air pollution worldwide could add 2 years to our lives. The WHO is now calling on governments to follow its formula for a cleaner future. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Now, the WHO guidelines come ahead of a key climate change conference in Scotland next month. Well, these two tiles might look the same to you, but one is actually wider than the other. Scientists at Purdue University in Indiana have created the world's whitest paint. It's even made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. Not only is this paint very, very white, it can help fight climate change. Researchers say the paint can work like an air conditioner. It's made to reflect 98% of sunlight, which is more than it absorbs. That makes the surface cooler than its surroundings. Most paints currently on the market reflect only about 80% of sunlight, and they get warmer instead of cooler.
And if you got kids, it's a disaster anyway.
So yeah, if you have kids, that is not going to stay in the Guinness Book of Records very long.
Tan neutrals. Best way to go.
Scuff marks.
Yes. And,
Fingerprints.
yeah, as long as it's wipeable. Yeah.
Is it washable?
I don't know. I don't
White
know.
paint
That's
washable.
That's why I'm questioning the feasibility. I need a feasibility study from one of our health watches. High temperatures have been peaking and valleying, and we're going to rise right back up and throw a couple numbers that are going to be comparable to what we had last week, up there in the 80s, if not 90s here by the time the weekend's over. Gorgeous, gorgeous sunrise over Joplin, 58 degrees. We do have 160 hanging out there. It is Neosho. We've been as low as 46 down in Jay, and Jay's now up to 49. Anderson was at 49. It's now up to 54. So you can tell the warm-up's going to take place rather quickly, and it's even able to do so with increased cloud cover. And it's because of our wind. It's going to go to eventually 10 to 15, 20 miles per hour. But look at this change from yesterday, as we're anywhere from about 6 to 12 degrees warmer on this Friday morning than what we were on Thursday morning. There is that cloud cover. I tell you what, it's been on the move. It's coming in fast there from the west. I don't have anything to worry about it as it moves in, but I'm just, the clouds are booking it across the middle of the Midwest. Skywatch Storm Tracker keeping all that rain up to the north. This is going to kind of hold it right there in that trough, so we don't need to worry about that, as it'll mainly make its way toward the Great Lakes. And then we see a little bit for the northeastern portion and deep west as well, which they need. Let's talk a little bit more about some severe weather. Category 1 hurricane by the name of Sam. Now, really is going to hang out there for a while, but then by the time we get into next week, he gets up to a Category 3. We'll be following it as it gets closer to Puerto Rico. Here in the 4 states, we'll go low 80s later on this afternoon, and those temperatures you see on your right-hand side, the expected kickoff temperatures for high school football are around 7 o'clock, so that's going to be low to mid 70s. Then get ready for a hot weekend, 86 on Saturday, 91 on Sunday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Jake Gyllenhaal stars practically alone in his latest movie. Rick Damigella, our boy in Hollywood, with the story.
911, this is emergency operator 625.
I've just been robbed.
Okay, sir, I need to know where you are. Last name?
Is this the fire department?
No, ma'am, you've reached 911, but I can connect you to fire. Just hold the line.
Jake Gyllenhaal portrays a 911 operator in The Guilty.
I just want to talk to you.
Okay, I'm hanging
I'm
up.
just out for a drive, sweetie, okay?
Is there someone with you?
Uh-huh.
With several off-screen and just a handful of on-screen co-stars, Gyllenhaal is in the majority of shots of the film.
To me, it's a movie about listening, honestly. And though the movie plays on me for a lot of it and on my face, I think inevitably, pretty early on, the audience's imagination should switch on. And the sounds, this is a heavy sound movie, starts to play in their own mind. And you start to picture what he's picturing and what he's going through and how he can see things.
All movies are challenging, right? To make a movie is challenging. But this one had a lot of particular things, like the height of COVID and all sorts of things going on. As far as the keeping it intense and the thriller of it all, because it is about listening, and every little thing you say gives something away.
There is a scared little girl whose mother has been abducted.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
All right, so it's going to be in select theaters. Check those local listings. Debuts on Netflix on Friday, October 1. Every time I see him, I think of one thing, and it's still, to this day, Donnie Darko, even though it doesn't look like he's changed that much. Lord knows I've got a whole lot more gray hair than when I saw Donnie Darko. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, it's our something to talk about. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill demanding that Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube turn over information on extremist and what it deems conspiracy content. Lawmakers want to know the platform's policies on monitoring and removing extremist content advocating violence. Also want to know how companies handle increased promotion of domestic terrorism and violent extremism on social media. So lawmakers are directing the sites to submit information on content that was removed before the January 6th insurrection, promoting, recruiting, or advocating for events leading up to the attack. Our specific question for you: who's responsible for monitoring the content and messages of social media? And it's been pretty overwhelming all morning. 83% of you say it's you, me, and the rest of the crew. It goes down to the user. Only 7% say the government. I was a little bit surprised that 10%, I know these numbers are very similar right here, but 10% say let Uncle Sam do it. I thought maybe the company or the government maybe switched. You can take part each and every morning. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We'll be back right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Tech Sergeant Roger Hurl in the U.S. Air Force. Hailing from Golden City, Missouri, Hurl served our country proudly for 2 decades, from 1959 to 1979. To Tech Sergeant Roger Hurl, we thank you, today's four-state hero. With big celebration for a beloved Californian who is rich with history. Betty Reed Soskian is the country's oldest national park ranger. She just received a very special honor to celebrate a very special day. She turned 100. Liz Kreutz sat down with her to talk about her milestone birthday and her secret to a long life.
Happy birthday to you. Betty Reed Soskian has a lot to celebrate.
How are you doing today?
Fine, how are you? She's already the country's oldest national park ranger, an author, a musician, a civil rights activist, and today she can claim 2 more big accomplishments. A school renamed in her honor, and turning 100.
100 years old?
Yes.
How do you feel?
I feel, I don't know how I feel. I feel sometimes 100 and sometimes 80, and sometimes 50.
That youthful energy is what's kept Reed Soskian working for more than a decade, first in person and now on Zoom at the Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Park Museum. There she shares her own experience as a black woman working during the war as a file clerk in a segregated union hall. On the eve of her centennial birthday this week, we visited Reed Soskian at her home in Richmond and asked, what's her secret to such a long life?
I'm not sure that there is a secret.
It's not like you have a glass of wine every day or
no
whiskey every night.
No.
Chocolate?
Yes.
A little bit of chocolate?
Yes.
It turns out she does have a sweet tooth, but the real answer might simply be genetics. Her mother lived to be 101. Her grandmother, who was born a slave in 1856, lived to be 102.
And I was born in 1921 and still here.
Reed Soskian was born in Detroit, Michigan on September 22, 1921. Since then, she's lived through 17 U.S. presidents. But for her, just one stands out above the rest.
What's one memory that you're most proud of?
Standing with Obama on the stage in Washington, D.C. I had in my hand a little evening bag. In that bag was a picture of my great-grandmother, and I was holding it as I was introducing the President of the United States, in the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial, in the shadow of the White House that was built by slaves. The whole meaning of that has really captured me.
It's probably a moment you never ever even thought would ever have been possible.
No, I would never have guessed that my life would have contained such vignettes.
The latest vignette, this moment, today, at the newly renamed Betty Reed Soskin Middle School in El Sobrante.
And our children deserve to have someone to look up to.
Reed Soskin brought to tears, overwhelmed with love and gratitude.
Having a school named for me is more than I could have ever thought of, because it means that a number of children will go into the world knowing who I was and what I was doing here. And maybe it will make a difference. I think maybe it will make a difference.
Well, Soskin has worked for a decade, sharing her experience as a Black woman working during the war as a file clerk in a segregated union hall in Richmond, Virginia. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, we find out how one school district is bridging the learning gap for its younger students during the pandemic. And about a month into the school year, Missouri finds itself short on substitute teachers. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
State's most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. A jury finds a Joplin murder suspect guilty. Stephen Thompson left the courtroom yesterday afternoon after hearing the jury's verdict, guilty of first-degree murder, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and first-degree domestic assault. The verdict means that Thompson is convicted of killing Carissa Gerard and critically injuring his estranged wife, Christina Thompson, in 2015.
We are very pleased with the verdict that the jury has given us. It is the evidence that we believed from the point where we filed this case, that Stephen Thompson had committed first-degree murder and first-degree domestic assault. So we're very pleased that they were able to see and consider all that evidence and find him guilty.
Thompson is set to be sentenced late next month. An Nevada, Missouri man is dead and another is in jail after a shooting in a parking lot. Authorities have charged 62-year-old Stephen Vignola with first-degree murder for the death of 32-year-old Justin Goolsby. Police and sheriff's officers responded Wednesday night to a report of shots fired in the parking lot of the Pilot truck stop in Nevada. That's where they found Goolsby with gunshot wounds inside a vehicle. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Officers arrested Vignola near the scene. They have not released other details. Kansas Highway Patrol is asking the public for help finding a vehicle allegedly involved in a hit and run in Crawford County. Authorities say the crash happened around 10 p.m. on September 9th on South 220th Street and East 510th Avenue. The suspect vehicle is a 2016 to 2018 white Chevy pickup, possibly a 4-door, with damage to the passenger side rear quarter panel and a missing taillight. Anyone with information is asked to contact Kansas Highway Patrol. Virtual learning due to the pandemic caused a strain for many, but younger students in early childhood development seem to be hit the hardest. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky tells us how the Mcdonald County School District is working to bridge learning gaps in these children.
When the pandemic forced us all inside, we had to get creative to stay in touch while staying safe. For schools, this meant transitioning to online learning.
A lot of parents really struggled with things virtually. And I'm also a speech and language pathologist, and doing speech and language therapy online with a preschool child is not a very easy thing to do.
Many found this annoying or difficult, but for children in the early development stages, this transition back into the classroom left them with crucial gaps in their education.
They really didn't have good experiences during that time where they're really soaking in the learning. And they've missed out.
Teachers like Shelley Emmert are seeing this firsthand in her students.
In my classroom alone this year, I usually have one child that maybe needs speech articulation. I have 10 this year.
To bridge this learning gap, the McDonald County School District is utilizing their parents as teachers and child find programs.
It's our early childhood special education program, and it's designed to address the needs of our younger children that have developmental delays.
The Parents as Teachers program works alongside the school district to ensure that preschool children meet their learning goals and are prepared to go into kindergarten.
They meet with parents and they do activities with them, and they explain what learning levels or what checklists you need to make sure is your child holding a pencil correctly. Are they able to sing the alphabet?
With masks also playing a factor in speech and language development skills, these programs aim to get kids on the right track. In Pineville, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Anyone looking for more information on these programs can call the McDonald County School District's office, and that information is posted on our website. Well, there's a substitute teacher shortage in Missouri. Usually in McDonald County, there are 60 substitute teachers employed during a regular school year. This year, there's only 40 substitutes. Staff at McDonald County Schools say this affects how often regular teachers can get additional training. Not to mention, it puts more stress on everyone when the regular teachers call in sick. But several principals in McDonald County are stepping up to the plate and going back into the classroom to teach.
Different staff members and even administrators that are leaving their usual jobs and going and covering classrooms because we do have this substitute teacher shortage. We have principals who have filled in the classrooms. We have other teachers that have been moved to different places.
Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education is launching a new online course that will qualify applicants to get their substitute teacher certification regardless of college credits.
I don't want to make a blanket statement when I say this, but being raised by a teacher who's now an administrator, there's a little smile on their face when they get to walk back in that classroom. Not saying they want to do it all the time, but I can imagine mom being like, no, I didn't want to do it. Yeah, I loved it. I forgot how great it was. That's why I started doing it in the first place.
Well, look who she raised.
Love you, Mom. Current conditions over 7th and Rangeline. Tanya, wanted to turn the camera down to the southwest right there because that's where we're seeing the increased cloud cover. Still sitting at 58 degrees, just have not budged, at least in Joplin. We do have Anderson now up to 50 along with Miami. Earlier, Anderson was down into the 40s. We lost our 60 that we had earlier, so we're still waiting on the warm up. It'll get here though, because the wind's just going to keep on coming in from the south. We've been lucky so far, just hanging 5 to 10 miles per hour. You get a nice little breeze when you walk outside. Look at this increase from our morning temperatures now to where we were yesterday. A whole bunch of double digits up there. Here's that cloud cover I was talking about, and what happened was, so this is the system that we had yesterday, and really hung around for the past couple of days. Now watch the transition of all the high pressure to the east and replace it with that low. You'll notice that those low indicators almost hit exactly where the highs did about 3 days ago. So everything's moving off toward the Mississippi. Now the nice thing is all the rain, it would be nice to have some showers, but as far as legitimate thunderstorm activity, it's going to stay up by the Great Lakes and the Upper Plains. It's not going to affect us. Our afternoon planner is going to put us into we'll go low 80s today, and for those of you out and about tonight for a little high school football, kickoff temperatures ranging low to mid 70s, no travel concerns whatsoever. It's just going to be a little cloudy, a little windy. You can't complain about that for late September, right? Well, then we got to sit back and get a little taste of summer, because Saturday and Sunday are going to be warm and then hot, 86 and 91. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Turn your old
Emotions are running high in the Park Hills School District in Kansas City after a racist incident at one of the high schools. Last week, some students circulated a petition to, quote, bring back slavery. Carolina Cruz spoke to parents who want to see more action from administrators.
Speaking out about this is not an attempt to criticize, it's an attempt to make something better.
Julie Stutterheim's daughter is a freshman at LEAD. It's the Park Hill School District's Innovation High School. Her daughter is from Ethiopia.
Through her eyes, I see like what she has to go through and, the experiences she has. And, I think it's important that we continue to that are different than what I experienced as a white kid.
At the end of last week, Stetterheim's daughter told her about some racist comments circulating between Park Hill South students on social media.
That some students had started a petition she had heard to bring back slavery.
In a statement, the district superintendent describes it as, quote, a small group of students who posted unacceptable and racist statements online. The superintendent goes on to say they do not tolerate discrimination or harassment, and added they have specific policies to respond to these incidents in the form of suspension or expulsion.
They use words like zero tolerance policy, but that doesn't really mean anything. There's a lot of tolerance for this type of behavior, in my view. And, you know, I would like to be able to tell my daughter that, you know, it was taken very seriously.
The district superintendent says they cannot share specifics about any particular student's discipline. We spoke with Park Hill South High School principal.
We've promised our students we would provide an environment where they belong and feel safe, and clearly we're not there yet.
Terry Dion was hired this school year to lead inclusion and diversity within the district. She will lead conversations about the topic.
Listening will give us a little greater insight into the impact of the situation, which will then allow us to take action, the appropriate and most effective actions and next steps.
Well, the district says they plan to have conversations with parents and students in the coming weeks and will later present a plan of action. We'll be back after this. A new report finds the U.S. could fall into a recession if Congress fails to raise the debt ceiling this fall. According to Moody's Analytics, the lack of action could wipe out as many as 6 million jobs. This week, the House passed a funding bill that includes a provision to suspend the debt limit. It's unlikely to move forward in the Senate. Aviation industry leaders testified before Congress yesterday about the record surge of violent passenger incidents on flights and at airports. Now, most of the incidents involve passengers refusing to wear a mask. Errol Barnett has the latest.
Airline and flight attendant representatives are pleading with Congress to do more to keep air travel safe for everyone.
Our colleagues are anxious and fearful. What is going to happen on the next flight? How will this passenger react if I remind them to wear their mask?
The number of unruly passenger incidents on flights surged during the pandemic, most over passengers refusing to wear a mask. A recent survey found 85% of flight attendants have dealt with unruly passengers this year, and 1 in 5 reported a physical incident. Sarah Nelson with the Association of Flight Attendants testified flights that originate in the South have been a particular problem.
We have had a lot of incidents out of Charlotte. We have had a lot of incidents out of the Florida airports and out of Texas. People have been led to believe that we're in conflict with each other.
The Federal Aviation Administration implemented a zero-tolerance policy and fines earlier this year when it became clear air travel in an ongoing pandemic was becoming unpredictable. As a result, the number of unruly incidents per flight decreased, but has recently plateaued. The FAA says Southwest and American Airlines suspending alcohol service has also helped, so it is now asking airports to limit drink-to-go orders.
Only airline employees, and specifically gate agents, can deny boarding to passengers.
Right, so they're going to have to do breathalyzers. All right, thanks.
There have been more than 4,300 air rage incidents so far this year and counting. Witness testimony suggested to end the problem there should be penalties beyond fines, like criminal prosecution from the Justice Department. Errol Barnett, CBS News, Washington.
Flight attendant groups are also asking for greater law enforcement presence at the airports. Some members of Congress want airlines to share and consolidate their individual no-fly list. We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
This is a
Millions of children play organized sports. Joining a team keeps kids active, can also teach life lessons. Learn about failure, learn about teamwork, learn about success. But being an athlete can sometimes be hard on mental health as well. Mandy Gaither with tips from a psychologist on how to keep sports fun without the pressure.
Fall sports are back and the benefits are boundless for children who take part.
There's so many things that they learn as far as
improving friendships. They learn how to problem solve. They learn to work as a team.
And sports keep kids active, but playing on a team can also be a lot of pressure. So how do you keep your child's head in the game while caring for their mental health? Dr. Stephanie Walsh with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Strong for Life says focus on fun.
Every time their kid runs out on the field, I want the last thing they shout to them to be, have fun. And the first thing they say to them when they come off the field is, I loved watching you play.
Practice plays a big part in sports, but Dr. Walsh says pushing a child to practice more can cause resentment and make the child unsure of themselves.
You're allowed to say, hey, we made a commitment. Can we talk about why you're feeling that you maybe don't want to practice or you don't want to do some of the things we talked about you doing? And ask them what's going on.
Dr. Walsh says follow your child's lead. They may need some downtime. And in sports, like in life, failure is hard, but it allows kids to learn.
Make sure that you're not blaming somebody for a loss. A lot of times we'll always hear kids say, well, the ref was bad, or one of the players didn't do well, and really pushing it off on the fact that sometimes you just lose a game.
But learning that lesson is a win in the long run. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Into our weather almanac on this September the 24th. This Skywatch storm tracker indicating our average high would be 79 degrees. It's going to be a whole lot warmer than that over the weekend. Check out that record low from 1989. Actually dipped below the freezing point. Here's where we sit over 7th and range line. Clouds are moving and they are moving fast. Now, don't have any precipitation in them, but give you an idea that we will have increasing cloud cover throughout the course of our Friday. 58 degrees is where we stand, excuse me, right now in Joplin. 57 in Chanute. Anderson and Miami also at 50, and a little bit, it's been warmer all morning long in the central and northern portion of the 4 states. We've got 58s in Carthage, Lamar, Nevada, Fort Scott, you name it. Wind tracker. This is what we'll keep our eyes on, especially once we get close to about, say, 10, 11 a.m., because it is going to drastically pick up till about, say 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. It has resulted in double-digit temperature increases from where we stood at this point in time yesterday. That gives you an idea of the cloud cover that's moved in. The barometer is going to sink because we got some low pressure hanging out in central Kansas right now that is going to push through us. Not going to bring us any rain activity. It's a line of low pressure, if you will, but all that precipitation that you see in the upper plains is just going to head toward the Great Lakes. Not going to have any southerly dip to it, as we've got a good split in the jet stream right now. And as far as what we're talking about on the severe thunderstorm risk map, we don't even see the low category popping up in the contiguous 48. So that's good for just about everybody. We do have some severe weather out in the Atlantic Basin. Sam is now a Category 1 storm. And as he increases in intensity, we will keep our eyes on this next week because look at those plot lines. They're very, very consistent. And sometimes when we get large deviations, we go, it's too early to tell. Well, those are all kind of fitting together there as far as the role it's going to play on Puerto Rico, the Dominican, and Haiti as well. 80 degrees here in the 4 states for the afternoon hours. Southerly gusts 25 miles per hour. Partly cloudy as the wind subsides overnight after sunset. Temperatures on the right hand give you an idea of what it's going to be like at 7 o'clock for high school football kickoff. Going to be delightful. Low to mid 70s. And then we sit back in a weekend that's going to be warm, if not hot. 86 on Saturday, 91 on Sunday. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. A CDC advisory panel Thursday recommended that Pfizer booster shots be offered to seniors 65 and up and other groups at risk. The panel said the boosters should be given at least 6 months after someone is fully vaccinated. Investigators in Colliersville, Tennessee are searching for a motive after a gunman opened fire in a Kroger supermarket. At least one person was killed and about a dozen injured. Police say the suspect took his own life. Law enforcement sources tell CBS News they're looking into whether he may have been a disgruntled employee. The U.S. District Court of Wyoming issues a federal arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie. He's wanted for activities following the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. The warrant alleges Laundrie used an unauthorized bank card around the time of Gabby's disappearance during a cross-country road trip. Laundrie fell out of sight over a week ago. Those are some of the days top stories. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Whole bunch of sunshine, increasing cloud cover. It is going to be breezy. Comes in from the south, though. That's why we've got our warm temperatures. Get ready for a hot weekend, though. 86 on Saturday, 91, not only on Sunday, but carry that into Monday as well.
All right, well, hoarding comes in many forms, and according to a new one-poll survey, 2 in 3 Americans admit their smartphone camera roll is a wreck. Wait, this story's about me. The survey also unearthed some of the unusual treasures people collect at home. Frozen pizza packaging, not about me. Raccoon and penguin statues, also not about me. And swords of any kind. Not going to talk about that. Those were among the top 10.
What?
Who collects pizza packaging? Why? Hopefully they clean the boxes.
I'm not gonna lie to you. The last picture I sent was a chicken in concrete. Thank you for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.